Cleopatra lived closer in time to the moon landing than to the building of the Great Pyramid. That is how absurdly old ancient Egypt is. 3,000 years, 30 dynasties, god-kings, golden treasures, animal-headed gods, and more pyramids than any sane civilization should build. How did a strip of desert become history's longest-lived superpower? The answer is one very generous, very moody river. 5000 BC. The Sahara is drying out, and everyone with survival instincts crowds onto the banks of the Nile. Every summer the river floods, dumping rich black mud across the fields. The Egyptians called it the Black Land, the desert, the Red Land. Naming things was easier back then. Predictable floods meant predictable food. Surplus grain meant villages, then towns, then two rival kingdoms staring at each other down the river. Upper Egypt in the south, Lower Egypt in the north. Yes, Upper is at the bottom of the map. The Nile flows north, and Egyptians refuse to apologize for it. Around 3100 BC, a southern king named Narmer decided 2 Egypts was one too many. He conquered the north and invented the ultimate power move, wearing both crowns at once. The pharaoh wasn't just a king, he was a living god, the falcon god Horus in human form, great for job security, terrible for work-life balance. A new capital rose at Memphis, right where the two lands met. Scribes began scratching little pictures onto clay and stone, hieroglyphs, the fanciest handwriting in history. And so the machine started. Dynasty after dynasty, pharaoh after pharaoh, for 3,000 years. Buckle up, there are 30 of these. 2670 BC, Pharaoh Djoser wants a tomb that says, "I am a god." His genius architect Imhotep stacks 6 stone platforms into the world's first pyramid. Humanity never recovered. Then the pyramid arms race began. Pharaoh Sneferu built one that cracked, one that bent halfway up, and finally one that worked. 3rd time's the charm, in only 2 million tons of stone. His son Khufu ended the argument forever. The Great Pyramid of Giza, 2.3 million blocks, 480 feet tall, the tallest building on Earth for 38 centuries. And no, aliens didn't build it. Neither did slaves. Paid Egyptian workers did, fueled by bread, onions, and a truly heroic amount of beer. Khufu's son Khafre added his own pyramid, plus a bonus, a giant lion with his own face. The Sphinx. Subtlety was not a pharaoh's skill. Why all this effort? Because death was just level 2. Preserve the body, pack snacks for the journey, and the pharaoh lives forever. Mummification, skincare with commitment. But around 2180 BC, the unthinkable happened. The Nile floods failed, year after year, and when the river fails, Egypt fails. Famine spread. The god-king suddenly looked very mortal. If Pharaoh controls the flood, why are we starving? Awkward questions for a living god. The kingdom shattered. Local governors declared themselves rulers. Rival pharaohs popped up like weeds, and Egypt spent a century in chaos. Egypt learned its first hard lesson: no flood, no food, no pharaoh. Remember this, it will happen again. 2055 BC, a southern prince, Mentuhotep II, stitched Egypt back together with an army and sheer stubbornness. The Middle Kingdom had begun. This was Egypt's golden age of words. Poetry, adventure stories, philosophy, also massive irrigation projects, because Egyptians never stopped worrying about that river. Pharaohs pushed south into Nubia, building fortress chains to guard one thing: gold. So much gold that neighboring kings wrote asking for some, claiming it was like dust in Egypt. But dynasties get old, grip gets weak. And this time, the threat wasn't the river, it was foreigners at the door, with technology Egypt had never seen. Around 1650 BC, the Hyksos rolled into the delta with 2 things Egypt didn't have: war chariots and composite bows. It was not a fair fight. Foreign kings ruled northern Egypt for a century. The humiliation was intense, but Egyptians did something smart. They copied the homework: chariots, bows, bronze weapons. Noted. 1550 BC. Pharaoh Ahmose drove the Hyksos out with their own weapons, chased them into Canaan for good measure, and founded the New Kingdom, Egypt's revenge era. The New Kingdom wasn't playing defense anymore. Egypt went full empire, south deep into Nubia, north through Canaan to the Euphrates. Tribute flowed in from everywhere. Then came Hatshepsut, a queen who looked at the rules and said no. She ruled as pharaoh for 20 years, wore the ceremonial beard, and ran one of the most prosperous reigns ever. Her successor Thutmose III became Egypt's Napoleon. 17 campaigns, 0 losses. At Megiddo he marched his army through a mountain pass so narrow his generals begged him not to. It worked perfectly. War loot plus Nubian gold equals building spree. The Temple of Karnak grew into the largest religious complex on earth. Priests became terrifyingly rich. Remember that too. Pyramids, it turned out, were giant rob me signs. New Kingdom pharaohs switched to secret tombs carved into a hidden desert valley, the Valley of the Kings. Spoiler, robbers found those too. By Amenhotep III, Egypt was so rich the pharaoh's biggest problems were choosing between palaces. Peak Egypt, which meant, of course, it was all about to go sideways. Because his son was about to attempt the most radical experiment in Egyptian history, and Egypt hated it. Akhenaten cancelled the gods, all of them, except one, the Aten, the sun disk. He shut the temples, fired the priests, and made himself the only connection to God. The priests were displeased. He built a brand new capital in the empty desert, Amarna, and even changed the art style. Suddenly, pharaohs had long faces, potbellies, and family picnics, deeply weird for Egypt. The experiment died with him. The old gods returned, Amarna was abandoned, and his name was chiseled off monuments. Egypt's official position, that never happened. His son inherited the cleanup, a 9-year-old named Tutankhamun. He died at 19, a minor pharaoh, who became the most famous of all, because in 1922 his tomb was found untouched. Beginner's luck, 3,000 years late. With the dynasty running out of heirs, a general took the throne, then another. The second one's family would produce Egypt's loudest pharaoh ever. Ramesses II, 66 years on the throne, around 100 children, and a personal branding strategy of putting his name on everything, including other pharaohs' statues. At Kadesh in 1274 BC, he charged into a Hittite trap, got surrounded, and survived by personally fighting his way out. He then declared it a magnificent victory. Historians disagree, loudly. The war ended in a draw, so Egypt and the Hittites signed the first surviving peace treaty in history. A copy hangs in the United Nations today. Not bad for 1259 BC. Ramesses spent the peace dividend on himself. The rock temples of Abu Simbel, 4 60-foot statues of guess who. When he died at 90, Egypt could barely remember another ruler. Then, around 1177 BC, the entire Bronze Age world collapsed. Mysterious sea peoples torched every empire in the eastern Mediterranean. Egypt fought them off, but crawled out of the fight broke and exhausted. How broke? Tomb workers went on strike when their grain rations stopped. History's first recorded labor strike. Meanwhile, officials were robbing the royal tombs they were paid to guard. Egypt split yet again. Libyan chiefs ruled the north, then Nubian kings from the south conquered everything, becoming pharaohs themselves and honestly running the place rather well. Then Assyria, the military superpower of the age, smashed in and sacked the sacred city of Thebes in 664 BC. The shock echoed around the ancient world. Egypt recovered, briefly. Then Persia arrived in 525 BC and simply absorbed it. After 2,500 years, Egypt was now somebody else's province. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great strolled in, kicked out the Persians, and was welcomed as a liberator. He founded a little coastal city called Alexandria, then left to conquer everything else. After his death, his general Ptolemy grabbed Egypt. For 3 centuries, Greek pharaohs ruled from Alexandria, home to the great library and a lighthouse so impressive it made the wonders list. The Ptolemies kept it in the family, literally, sibling marriages, family murders, palace coups. By the end, the dynasty was a soap opera and Rome was the only bank still lending. Enter Cleopatra VII, brilliant, multilingual, and playing the last hand Egypt had. She allied with Julius Caesar, then Mark Antony, betting Egypt's future on Roman civil wars. She bet on Antony. At Actium in 31 BC, they lost everything to Octavian. Rather than be paraded through Rome, Cleopatra chose death by cobra. Egypt became a Roman province. After 3,000 years, game over. 3,000 years. Longer than Rome, longer than any empire since. 30 dynasties of god-kings who turned a river valley into the most enduring civilization in human history. When the last temple closed, even the knowledge of hieroglyphs died. For 1,500 years, no human could read Egypt's story until a stone found at Rosetta in 1799 cracked the code. Pyramids on our postcards, mummies in our movies, and a calendar of 365 days on your wall. Egypt never really ended. It just went global. Subscribe, the next empire awaits.